Mahoning, at the Licks, a place of nourishment. It is a river, a geographic place, a site of inspiration and prosperity for the diverse peoples who have settled here. The Mahoning Valley has been the lifeblood of millions of people, who in turn enrich the valley and the nation. Our story, The Peopling of the Mahoning Valley, speaks of the countless contributions of those who benefited from the Mahoning, and then developed leadership for the Mahoning Valley and beyond. Originally, the Mahoning Valley area was the territory of Indians. The first European settlers arrived to the Mahoning area in the late 1700s and clustered around what is now Warren. Most notable were James Hillman, an agent for a Pittsburgh trading company, and John Young, surveyor entrepreneur of New York State, for whom Youngstown was named. In 1796, Young signed a purchase agreement and later purchased with $16,085 of borrowed money 15,560 acres from the Connecticut Land Company for Township 2, Range 2 of the Connecticut Western Reserve. Young and two surveying parties, which included Daniel Sheehy, Phineas Hill, and later James Hillman, spent time from 1796 to 1797 in the Mahoning Valley, laying out what became Youngstown Township. Shortly afterward, many English settled in the region. Some quickly distinguished themselves. Family names such as Arms, Baldwin, Adams, Hitchcock, Kirtland, Rudge, Wick, Williamson, and Boardman were among the first Europeans to benefit from the Mahoning. They established Canfield and Youngstown, which served successively as the county seat. Struthers, named for John Struthers, was soon settled as a mill town at the mouth of Yellow Creek. 50 years after its inception on July 7, 1846, William Pritchard was the first Englishman in the Mahoning County to become a naturalized citizen. John Davis of the Western Reserve Land Company was the first of the Welsh to locate in the valley in 1807. Davis recruited other Welsh immigrants to come to the Mahoning to mine coal, resulting in substantial numbers of Welsh by the 1830s and 1840s. The Scots who came to this area arrived either directly from their homeland or by way of Canada. They too were miners or iron workers, such as William Henderson, whose grandson was to serve as mayor of Youngstown in the 1940s and 50s. Among the first Irish to settle the Mahoning in the 1830s were Daniel Sheehy and the four Anderson brothers, John, David, Joseph, and Robert. Their letters to Ireland told of their new land and prosperity realized by the hard work digging canal ditches or mill sites or of working on farms. After Ireland's potato famine of the 1840s, the early Irish settlers were joined by a swell of their countrymen. By 1860, they were well settled in Briar Hill, Vinegar Hill, now Sheehy Street, Bottle Hill off Albert Street, Smoky Hollow just south of YSU, Kilkenny along Poland Avenue, and in Jackson Township. The first naturalized citizen of Irish birth in Mahoning County was Matthew Kilpatrick, September 7, 1846. Often because of their Catholicism, large families, and alleged drinking and brawling, the Irish were ill-treated and were not hired for the better jobs. Also among the first to settle in the Mahoning were a small number of Germans. They came in increasingly large numbers during the mid-1800s. By then, 116 of the 658 Youngstown residents were of German background. Some early German immigrants were farmers and settled in Green Township, drawn by the excellent farmlands. Often accused of being clannish or drinking excessively, they sometimes experienced bigotry and discrimination. By the second half of the century, many distinguished themselves in diverse occupations and careers. Noteworthy are the family names of Dybel, Renner, Mogg, Stambaugh, Renner, Strauss, Hirschberg, and Lanterman. The Scandinavians, as the English, Welsh, Scots, Irish, and Germans, are considered among the older immigrants. By the late 1870s, they had established a significant presence in a small enclave in the Hazelton area. Among the significant names are Gustav and Alfred Hammer, Peter Jensen, and Scholten Harson. Generally well received by the larger population, the Scandinavians sometimes met the same derision and prejudice as the Irish and Germans before them. These were the early settlers that shaped the economic growth, social maturing, and political developments of the new community. Their geographic location was ideal for industry and community building. As part of the Mahoning-Shenango River system that drained south into the Ohio River, the Mahoning Valley was connected by a portage to the Cuyahoga River, which flowed north into Lake Erie. The site was only 70 miles from Cleveland on Lake Erie to the north, and Pittsburgh at the headwaters of the Ohio to the south. The area had an abundance of wood, limestone, iron ore, and coal, the four basic ingredients for making iron and steel. It didn't take long for the ambitious new residents of the Mahoning area to capitalize on this unique and profitable combination of resources. Only a few years after Youngstown's founding, Daniel and James Heaton built Ohio's first blast furnace on Yellow Creek Gorge in Poland Township, now Struthers. This Hopewell furnace operated for about 4 years, after which James Heaton built and operated the Maria furnace in Niles in 1813. Isaac Heaton built Mill Creek Furnace in Youngstown Township, behind what is now Pioneer Pavilion. The Mahoning Valley was on its way to being referred to as the Steel Valley, or simply the Valley. It was along the banks of the Mahoning and Yellow Creek that a major steel industry was to grow. Eventually, it formed an American rival to the Ruhr Valley in Germany. The region required only a means of transportation and distribution of goods. Until the Civil War, man-made interconnecting waterways were the valley's transportation solution to economic prosperity. The canal built through Youngstown in 1839 gave the Mahoning Valley an all-water route to both Cleveland and Pittsburgh. However, canal and river traffic had inherent problems: high cost, slow speed, and seasonal use in cold northern states. It was hard for the canal system to compete with the glamour of the mighty Iron Horse. Railroads began to replace the canals by the time of the Civil War. The first railroads, the Cleveland and Mahoning, reached the valley by 1856, thanks to David Todd, one of the steel industry pioneers and Ohio's 25th governor. Todd's entrepreneurship and visibility helped him make a fortune in coal, iron, and transportation. Several other local railroads were built during the remaining part of the century, but most of the railroad business was handled by the Pennsylvania and Lake Erie, the Erie and Lackawanna, the Pennsylvania and the Baltimore and Ohio. These lines fanned out to form a spoke, with 50 to 60 passenger trains steaming through the valley daily. More rail cars passed under the Center Street Bridge per day than any other location in the country. Charcoal and later raw coal, both abundant in the area,